And we're live. I'm going to hop into our intro, and then we'll introduce you, Nick.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Where's that? Hey, welcome to another episode of Reels and Heels. It's just me right now, but Nicole will be joining us in just a minute. But we're joined by a special guest here. Nick, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, how's it going, guys? My name's Nick. I actually have known Nicole for what seems like forever. We went to junior high, elementary, I think maybe even. So we've known each other for quite a while. Huge wrestling fan, big movie fan too. So I'm just really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm loving the background with the fire and all that.
Thanks. Yeah, this is my work office. It's in the basement, so it gets cold down here. So that keeps me warm because it goes up to 80 degrees. So.
See, nerds.
But it's also my play office.
I was going to say nerds are in the basement. So
I mean, I did it to myself. It was upstairs, but I got more room down here now. So
cool. All right. So AEW definitely changed the landscape of professional wrestling. I guess not just in the US, but in the world.
Yeah, I would say so for sure. I mean, in the 3 years that they've been around, a lot of things have changed. I mean, you're seeing WWE superstars letting their contracts lapse, which didn't happen 3 years ago. They did everything that they could to keep those contracts going, and now, people are walking away from the biggest company in the world to go elsewhere. It's crazy. It's a great time to be a fan, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's independents all over. No matter what city or state you live in, there's an independent company near you. But let's go back. I think the pipe bomb that CM Punk did in, what was 2011?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. I think that was kind of the start of the change. Because after that pipe bomb, you saw people like Kofi Kingston and Bryan Danielson get main event spots in WWE. The smaller guys, you started getting, I guess, more pushback from the fans. And Vince wasn't really used to that because there was no other company. So it was basically Vince versus the fans, and I guess the talent who at the time, before CM Punk even did the pipe bomb, weren't really vocal. I mean, social media was still kind of new then, but could you imagine if Facebook was as huge as it is now back then? I mean, because Facebook had only been out for a couple years when that pipe bomb came out.
The social media uprise and just the internet in general has made fans smarter, but be kind of more annoying to a point for the companies especially. Everybody thinks they know everything now. Dirt sheets run rampant with just garbage stories that sometimes are partially true, but I mean sometimes it's just like, come on, Jim Cornette, what are you talking about?
I do find him entertaining, though. I do love to listen to his rants, but he's from an old school mindset too.
Yeah. Well, I've met him a couple of times in person, doing different Comic Cons and stuff. He's a real nice guy. But you don't talk to him about wrestling. Talk to him about anything else. Talk to him about comic books. How he loves comic books. I don't know if you know that he's a huge comic book nerd. In the last couple of years,
Tony Schiavone and him, they're both huge into comic books.
Yeah. And he'll come to a Comic-Con and he drives himself. Him and his wife are usually there. He sets all of his own stuff up. He's very quiet, doesn't ask for much, just kind of does his own thing and leaves. It was actually really cool. The first time I met him, I was actually working load-in, and he was just like, "Yeah, no, I don't need anything. Where can I park? Where do I go? Okay, thanks. See you later."
Was he wearing the bright pink jacket and pants with his tennis racket, or was he wearing something else?
No, he was literally like a black tracksuit with like a Jim Cornette shirt underneath it. He's got to self-promote, so they're a lot of these guys are not like that when you actually meet them in person. Like they'll a lot of times change for when they come out when guests are there, but behind the scenes, completely different. So
yeah, I remember meeting Bully Ray. The stories definitely most of them that I've read, I could say are true about him. I mean, I met him at Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor, the night before WrestleMania 33.
Okay.
So it was the Young Bucks and the Hardys in that ladder match, which is probably one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I met him that night. They did their because Ring of Honor always do like meet and greets before their shows.
Yeah.
Something that WWE doesn't do much anymore. I mean, they don't even do a lot of meet and greets, period.
Well, and AEW does, but you got to pay.
Yeah, AEW does. But yeah, I remember when WWE stars used to be like, they would send them everywhere to like different like GameStop and all that. And but now they don't do a lot of meet and greets. But yeah, Bully Ray, he kind of he didn't seem like he was a mean guy. He just kind of came off cocky.
Yeah. He definitely is, though. I mean, but you look where he's been too, and he's been around for a bit. So I'm not surprised that he's cocky in the slightest bit. But I mean, his take on the whole thing with Mox just really pissed a lot of people off. So, and yeah, scoot over, man.
Now the dog wants in on the conversation.
Well, the dog is a fan, clearly. So
yes,
let's get that opinion.
Hi, bud.
Yeah. So, like I said, the pipe bomb was kind of like the setting.
Yeah.
And that was in 2011, and of course, Punk kind of gotten tired of the whole thing, and did his movie UFC thing, and for 7 years was doing that.
Off the radar.
Wrote a couple comic books for Marvel. Actually, I think he still does every now and then.
His big one was that Thor annual where he did that story. Yeah, that was his first big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had people that were there at WWE. Cody, who is the son of Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Cody was in the Stardust gimmick, and he didn't even like that gimmick. He just kind of rolls with it.
I mean, what do you do when the guy who holds your check says, put this suit on, put this face paint on, and go out there and do what your brother does? I mean, what do? You do what he says. You don't have to like it, but you do what he says. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that in WWE right now. I mean, look at the Mustafa Ali situation. They're not going to release him. He wants to go. But they're going to hold on to him because they can. So
yeah, and the thing is, he has a year left in his contract, so he's just going to sit around unless they cut him because of budget cuts.
Jesus.
I mean, he could have been a good wrestler. Like, I think he could have had star quality if they'd given him anything to work with.
And this was somebody who was from Chicago, who was a police officer, who gave that up to be a professional wrestler.
Look, as much as everyone hates what they did with his whole faction, with T-Bar and Mace and all those guys,
that was cool, but they ruined
it would have worked, but they messed it up, like Vince always does. He sees something shiny in the corner and just throws everything away and starts over.
Oh,
So
you couldn't be more right about that.
So we have Cody, who basically just lets his contract run out, and he doesn't renew with Vince, and he becomes a free agent. Goes off and does Ring of Honor and New Japan, joins the Bullet Club, and that's where he becomes friends with the Bucks and Kenny Omega.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the birth of AEW, because the friendship that they've earned, that they made, and traveling the roads together. There was a lot of chatter of, could there be another company that rivals Vince? Because the last 20 years, that's all there was. We had Impact, TNA, and of course Ring of Honor, but they never made a dent into what WCW did, 20 years prior.
Right.
Sit.
But at the same time, they don't have the money that Ted Turner has. And it's hard to compete. So that's where you look at what AEW is doing, and Tony Khan has the money. They have more money than Vince does, so they just need some time. And we're 3 years in, but what's 3 years? You look how long that WWE's been around. They've got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, WWE, they've been around for almost 70 years, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's going to take time. People constantly are like, they don't have any storylines, they don't have this, they don't have that. Give it some time. Let them start to develop their people. These people are still getting used to each other. They're bringing in new people all the time too, so people you haven't worked with before. So you got to find the right mix of people that can work well together and create those stories. So it's still young, in my opinion. So I think one of the best things that they've done recently is CM Punk, to be honest. He's going to help them tremendously, backstage and on camera.
And we'll definitely get to him in a little bit here. But let's go back to January of 2019, when they had that big press announcement AEW was launching.
Yeah.
And of course, we knew Cody was part of it, and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. But what they didn't, some people knew that followed what was going on, but there was a lot of the general audience didn't know Jericho was going to be the first major signee to that company.
Yeah.
So as a fan, seeing Jericho, who technically still is a Vince guy, and he does say that he is a Vince guy. I think he will end his career in WWE. That's just my opinion. What were you thinking when you saw Jericho align himself with AEW?
I loved it, to be honest. But at this point, 3 years in, I feel like he's kind of run his course as far as what he's bringing to the table, which is why you're not seeing him in the ring as much, and you're seeing him on commentary. I think he's kind of slowing down in his career, and he realizes that, and he's probably going to move to full-time commentary before long. That's kind of why the inner circle is starting to implode, if you've noticed.
They're all going to probably end up being their own factions pretty soon.
Sammy's fine. Sammy doesn't need anybody.
Sammy's great.
Sammy will have his own. He'll have his own group because he needs to still have subscriptions to his own blog and these other things that he's doing on the side. But
he would be almost the perfect candidate to join the Dark Order, to be honest. With his new relationship with Tay, I feel like that it's gonna happen. But and that's another thing. They have to do something with the Dark Order. They're just dangling there, not doing anything.
I feel like though that they've lost so much that I don't know if they know how to recoup. When
Brody passed away,
they're they don't have a president per se. Like they don't have a person. They don't have
they
need somebody. They do. Yeah. And
not saying that Evil Uno is a good person on the mic, because he is. He's just not leader quality.
It was fine when it was him and Stu and they had their little minions that didn't really do anything. But when they started actually bringing people in, it's when it kind of fell apart and needed somebody more. And they need somebody with that presence that Brody had.
I do have to say, though, the stuff they did with Adam Page when
Page
was lost, that was actually pretty good.
It was, if they'd have followed through and actually made him a Dark Order member. If he'd have actually taken over and become their leader, it would have worked. It might have taken him in a different direction, and they might have even changed their name eventually. But I feel like he could lead that group and make it work.
Yeah. Something tells me Wyndham is going to come in and take over the Dark Order just because Brody was his really close friend.
I would love that, to be honest with you, but that's what everybody expects, so I don't think he'll do it. He's not that kind of guy, to be honest. Like he loved his friend and everything that he did, but I don't think that he wants to just go in and be the replacement guy. If he does, it's going to have to be some hell of a story.
Well, they could feud with the House of Black because I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, but then you also, for it to be a real feud with the House of Black, when he comes in, they're going to have to bring Eric. They're going to have to hire Rowan, and they're going to have to come in as a tag team.
What does he go by?
Eric Redbeard?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to have to bring him in. And they're going to, because as much as Wyndham is, he can't feud with the House of Black tag team right now by himself. I mean, Brody King is just too big to fight off by yourself. So we need somebody the size of Eric to come in there and kind of even the odds for him.
Yeah,
all right. So hopping back to that first year of AEW, they bring in Jericho.
I think you could talk about this whole thing without me here because I didn't watch the whole first year. Like, I did it. I wasn't. I don't know. I don't even know if I was watching WWE at the time. Like, honestly,
off and on.
I think I just got pissed off, and I was like, "This sucks. Like, this isn't. It's not fun anymore."
Yeah.
But we've been watching religiously since the whole CM Punk return. And then we've gone to 3 events.
It was so much fun.
I went to one AEW event they were in Indy, and I went, and it was amazing. So we sat on the floor, like right where the back of the ring is, where they do all the entrances. We were sitting right back there. I was actually on the end.
Is this Dynamite?
Yeah, it was Dynamite when the first one that they did in Indianapolis. So yeah. Got to touch John Moxley. Oh my God, he was there. He walked right by me.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
So, what did you think of their first year?
I mean, so 2019?
2019, yeah.
So 2019 into 2020, there were some stumbling blocks. I mean, you're gonna have stumbling blocks. You're a new company, but I feel like they did everything that they could do. There wasn't anything that they could do differently that I could go back and say, well, if you had done this, you'd be better off now.
Yeah, because Mox came in as a surprise during Double or Nothing, their first pay-per-view in Vegas. And that was in May, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, the first year, I feel like putting the belt on Jericho to start was a bad idea. I know he was their big star, but he should be there to be putting over the new talent. I feel like if they'd have put it on Adam Page, at least for the first 6 months, even first 3 months, and then had Jericho take it from him and like keep going back and forth and building up talent, I think it would have worked better than having Jericho hold the belt for as long as he did.
Why do you think they chose Jericho over Omega?
The name. He's more of a household name. I mean, people who watch the independents, who watch New Japan, they know who Kenny Omega is. But my wife didn't know who Kenny Omega was.
I didn't know he was either.
Some of my other friends who watch WWE had no idea who Kenny Omega was. I mean, I kind of knew who he was because I've seen some New Japan stuff, but it's just like asking about Finn Balor before he came to WWE. Nobody knew who the heck he was. You know, I mean, he'd been around forever. Nobody knows. You know, for the casual wrestling fan, people know his name. He's been around long enough that people have it's the name recognition is why they gave it to him and why they brought him in. I mean, really, no doubt about it.
All right, so we enter year 2, which both companies are faced with the pandemic. WWE did the whole Thunderdome thing.
Yeah.
AEW did it all at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. Out of the two, who do you think did the pandemic era better?
I'll be honest. I feel like AEW did. I mean, I know Vince put a lot of money into the Thunderdome, but I felt like the AEW shows were more organic. They didn't feel as rehearsed and retaped and reshot and redone like they did in the Thunderdome. And I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to be part of the Thunderdome cast, but it was horrible. You had somebody in your ear the entire time telling you when to cheer and boo for people. Wow. Kind of telling you what's happening. They're like, okay, we want to hear more cheers for whoever it was, or more boos. You know, these guys are bad guys. You know, give us more boos, give us thumbs downs, give us bad reactions. It was very, very overproduced. They didn't allow fans who were in there to actually give their reactions like how they probably wanted to. And you didn't get to stay for the whole show, like in there. It was 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how many people they had sign up for it. And then they just kicked you out, and they didn't tell you. They told you what time you would start, and then they would just kick you after however long and be like, sorry, your time is up. Wow. So
yeah, and didn't some people kind of get snuck in there, like, because there was a video, like somebody somehow snuck a video of a Chris Benoit match.
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of stuff, they can only supervise so many streams until, you know, they're going to notice it eventually, but you got a couple hundred people in there. It's going to take some time. People with signs that were inappropriate, you know, things like that. It happens. I mean, you're on live TV. Yeah. Just look at what happened on Wednesday. Mox dropped an F-bomb on live TV. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, well, that person deserved it too.
He kind of deserved it.
He definitely deserved it. I'm not saying he didn't. It was just amazing that it stayed on air.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was amazing.
I was surprised too. I was like, hey,
they have that delay, you know.
Yeah. Well, so. I thought it was amazing that when he got in the ring,
sleeping on the job there,
the whole like audience got quiet because they really wanted to hear what Mox had to say. Yeah. And can we just say how good he looked? Like, he didn't have that beer gut no more.
Fantastic.
He was lean.
Yeah.
Fantastic. His face really just looked, like if you look at, I think it was the Dynamite before he took the time off versus last night, his face, it looks like a completely different person. His eyes were like super swollen, and like his face was just round and just full of fluid.
He looked clean. He looked healthy.
He was probably the same shape he was when he first came in as Dean Ambrose in the Shield when they powerbombed Ryback.
Let's talk about the Shield for a second. Let's talk about Rollins on Friday night, dropping the Mox name on WWE TV.
I missed that. I should have watched the video.
He was doing a promo because he's fighting Reigns at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, you know, they're predictable booking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love Roman Reigns. I really do. And I think when they made him a heel, it helped. It definitely helped him on the mic, and it helped him just in general. But for the love of God, aren't there any other people? Maybe there aren't. I mean, considering.
Wow.
I mean, there were probably like 150 or so, but they got released within the last year or so.
Yeah, so now, okay, maybe there aren't any other, you know, maybe there aren't any people. But I'm just saying, like, we just keep on bringing back the same people. So if it's not Roman Reigns holding the belt, then we're going to bring back Brock Lesnar, and he'll hold the belt, and then and then.
But I love Farmer Brock Lesnar. He's fantastic right now, talking for himself and actually having a personality for the first time ever. Really, I'm loving it.
I guess
I do have to-
I should watch that because
I do have to say
them,
some of his
'cause I really don't
promos
like
are
him.
funny. I personally don't like Brock Lesnar as an in-ring talent. I don't think he respects the business.
I think he does more than you think he does, because otherwise he wouldn't keep coming back. I know the money is a thing, but he's having fun now. He's got that ponytail and that beard, and he looks like a completely different person, and he's acting like a completely different person.
Maybe that's the whole thing. Like maybe that'll be the win over. But
I'm finally excited though. We're finally gonna see Bobby Lashley and him go at it.
Oh yeah, that took far too long to happen. Far too long.
And Lashley's been calling him out for a real MMA fight for years.
But see, I'm surprised that didn't happen, since they're both big dudes. Since they're both big guys, and that's Vince's hard on. But I just
You're not wrong.
Didn't I didn't think it would take this long. Not that I'm excited to watch that match, because they both have a whole lot of personality, and I just don't know what to do with it.
Well, in a recent interview, MVP just called Brock Lesnar soft. So
let me just say that pairing though of Lashley and MVP, I think, was probably the best thing they could have done for Bobby Lashley.
It works.
Hit him with
it
the
definitely
mouthpiece
works.
like MVP.
Yeah.
Because then Bobby Lashley
old,
doesn't have to talk so much.
Yeah.
Because he's not so good at it.
You're not wrong, but I mean, he's not there for talking. He's there for squashing people who don't need to be squashed.
Yeah. So speaking of talking, let's talk about this guy right here.
God. Why do we have to talk about this guy?
Because he's better than us and we know it. Born heel, dude. Born heel.
He's such a good heel, though.
I mean, he really is. Best heel in the business right now.
He plays it at autograph signings.
He plays the heel everywhere. Like, his parents are in on it. Everybody's in on it.
Yeah. I have no issues with him.
Annoying.
He really is. Yeah. He's very annoying.
And it's funny how he's using the bidding war of 2024, WWE versus AEW.
Yeah. Yeah. The amount of times that AEW references WWE these days is kind of, I think, a downfall. And people are, especially the casual fans, are like, oh, why do they keep bringing it up? Can't they do anything on their own? Why do they got to keep bringing up WWE to get all their numbers? It's not why they're doing it. They're making fun of these people. I mean,
it doesn't
to me,
come
it's
up
obvious.
as much though. Like,
it does and it doesn't.
It is now more so, but they're both doing it like back and forth. Like they do. They throw little teasers out for both sides.
Yeah, I love Cody's promo from this last Dynamite.
Yeah. Do you think he'll show up at the Royal Rumble? Honest opinion?
Honest opinion, I believe that this Royal Rumble is very unpredictable. I cannot predict this Rumble. Usually I'm pretty good at predicting the Rumbles.
Well, look at the fact that they're bringing Mickie James in, who is the current Impact World Champion, Women's World Champion. Mm-hmm. And they're going to let her come up with the belt.
Moose will show up.
Yeah, that. So I have a feeling that there's some backstage dealing with Impact and WWE, and there might be some cross-promotional stuff going to happen. Because there's no other reason for Moose to call out Roman Reigns unless something's going to happen. I mean, really.
Probably.
I actually have a friend who is an active member of Impact Wrestling. I say friend loosely, but I've been doing some IT work for the former Ada English, current Matthew Raywalt. And he's been telling me to keep an eye on things that are going on in Impact, and they're going to start getting interesting. So
he's married to Vicky's daughter, yes, right?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Eddie Guerrero's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Aiden English. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Super cool dude. He does a lot of Twitch streaming now on his off days, and then I was watching one and he was having some computer issues, and we kind of hooked up over that, and I've been helping him out and talking, and he's coming to Louisville in a couple months here, and we're gonna get together and have some drinks and stuff, so it should be pretty cool.
So back to MJF. Seriously, probably out of any promotion, the best heel in the business right now.
Agreed. Agreed.
And I would say out of the new generation, he's the best on the mic.
He's very, very, very good on the mic. And it's so natural for him. Just it doesn't feel rehearsed at all when he speaks. Like, the things that come out of his mouth is. I haven't heard anybody speak like him in this generation, or even like, I don't think since the Attitude Era, to be honest.
Yeah. And he's only 25. So when The Rock came into WWE, he was 23, 24 years old, right? And he wasn't even like this well developed.
Oh yeah, he didn't have those mic skills. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's crazy how good he is on the microphone. But at times I feel like it's just too much. Like, I want to see him in the ring wrestling, not talking on the mic and running away for 6 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Throwing other people into matches on his behalf.
I can agree with a lot of the buildup that has to happen for the story to be told.
Sure.
But I'm kind of tired of him talking about it. I just want to see him actually do something about it.
And it's the same thing with every opponent, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you want a match with me? Well, you have to fight Wardlow. And now you have to fight this guy. And now you have to do this. And then maybe I'll give you a match. But only if you do all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on right now with Punk is the same exact storyline that they did with Jericho.
Yeah.
But it's not the 6 labors of Jericho, because Jericho doesn't have his name on it right now. It's just Punk going out there and beating everybody's ass. So
yeah. I do like how slowly you can see Wardlow turning face.
I wish he would just punch him in the face so much.
So who does he turn on first?
Spears.
You think
yeah, he'll turn on Spears.
And as soon as MJF sees him turn on Spears,
it's over.
Run for the hills.
Yeah, he'll fire him because that's that whole long story arc about how he holds.
Or that's when they bring a new talent in to attack Wardlow.
Yeah.
And then it would be nice to be able to see a little bit of personality from him too, other than a power bomb, something where he's actually wrestling in the ring and just not annihilating people.
I see this on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. A lot of people are saying Wardlow is what Ryback should have been.
Yeah.
Because I see Wardlow's good. He's really good.
Ryback's just got a big mouth and screwed himself over too many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he didn't have as much talent and he wasn't as careful as he could have been.
Yeah, a lot of people said he was not good in the ring.
I mean, he's not the only
He works very stiff in the ring. I mean, but that doesn't always mean anything. I mean, look how long they kept Nia Jax. Let's just injure another person.
Yeah.
I feel bad for her though. Like, I don't feel
she's not anywhere now.
No, and I don't think she's going to be honest. I don't think she's going to wrestle
again. Her heart wasn't in wrestling. I think she wanted to do other things, and she made a post about it.
Well, I feel like they kind of threw her into this role of, and the Awesome Kong type, where she's just going to roll in and steamroll everybody and get out of the ring. But then that only can last for so long. But she didn't have the training to be more careful, I guess, necessarily, because of how they had been booking her.
But I also feel like a lot of times that's what they do to big girls, just in general. Like,
yeah.
Oh, well, you're big, and that'll just carry.
Yeah. They're doing it again right now with Piper Niven or Dewdrop or whatever you want to call her. So,
and I'd said multiple times, I'm like, who is this girl? Like, you don't do us any favors for like visibility and representation if the people that are representing us are trash. Like, if they don't have talent, if they can't do, like, you're not helping us feel like we're any more worthy than we've ever felt. Like, and I say we, because like at least with Nia Jax, there was this whole there was this whole other side where she was absolutely beautiful and she could dance and she did these things on Instagram that helped perpetuate the idea that she was an amazing person. It was not just in the ring, here I'm going to slaughter somebody. Okay. And they're doing, now I know this is a slightly different situation because of the status, but they do the same thing to Nyla Rose.
Yeah, they do.
And there's like, oh well, she's a native beast, and I'm like, but the thing is if you've seen pictures before the transition,
which I haven't looked at that. So.
I have, and she only became that big and that muscular and that much of a quote unquote
powerhouse.
A powerhouse the way she is now.
Yeah.
After the transition.
Really?
So she didn't look like that as a man. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well now we do have this powerhouse, but at the same time, there isn't really much to go on with that either, because you've got Vicky Guerrero doing what Vicky Guerrero does.
Yeah.
Screaming in the ring and carrying on and doing all that. And it takes away from any skill that Nyla could have.
Yeah. She's had moments like early on before. I feel like she was a better character before they paired her with Vicky Guerrero, to be honest. Yeah. I thought she was more fearsome by herself. She doesn't need that mouthpiece to be there to help her cheat to win.
Right.
You know, it's not necessary.
Because she could just win. Right.
And it's not like she has bad mic skills, so that's not a reason to have her with Vicky. I mean, I honestly don't know I kind of get it that Tony Khan wants to give Vicky, her legacy with the Guerrero family. He's given her a job. He needs to put her with somebody. Let's do this, pair it up, see how it works. And it works because their personalities work well together, and she is a heel, and she's a great heel manager. But at some point, they have to stand on their own.
Yeah. And I know backstage she's helping all the women because she has years of, experience. Even when, because she's been married to Eddie for so long, even when she wasn't involved in wrestling, she always knew about wrestling. So there's a lot of stuff she can teach the girls.
I just think that, if we stripped all of that away, like all of the screaming, and we got a more true to form Vicky, there are just some times when the character just is not necessary anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm tired of.
Yeah. Excuse me.
I'm tired of her being the same thing. Like, I've seen her talk in interviews where she talks about Eddie, or she talks about other people in the business, and she's incredible, just like that. And I just wish that they wouldn't always have her screaming and pounding on the mat. It's just annoying.
Yeah, so, she does need some character growth. It is slightly obnoxious to see the same exact character that we've seen since she started.
So since we're bringing up pairings, let's talk about this one who I think is paired with the best person.
I love Darby Allin. He's such a great guy. He is who he is. Like, that is him. I've met him 2 times now, and he's the most chill, down-to-earth dude. And
he loves the industry.
I do what I want. He used to be homeless.
Yeah.
He lived in his car for a long time. I was in a Q&A panel that he was doing, and a kid asked him, how do what's your best advice to be a wrestler? And he said, don't be afraid to sleep in your car. This kid's like 13 and his dad's sitting next to him. And I'm just like, not probably the best advice, but honest. So, yeah.
Well, that's okay. I said something to Jeff Hardy about the kids being the next backyard wrestlers. And he looked at me and went, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard a mom say. And I'm like, but I don't think it's cool. Like, don't tell my kids that's okay.
I mean, they're going to do it if they're going to do it.
Darby Allin and Sting have the best rivalry.
right now with the Acclaimed.
Yeah.
But I think they have a great, like, there's a good chemistry with them in the ring.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not,
they both don't have to say much
Yeah.
to put over what they're trying to do.
But you got to think, though, Sting is out of the whole roster that's there, even the people that work backstage that are retired, Sting, I think, has, outside of Tully Blanchard, Sting has the most years experience.
True. Well, Arn Anderson.
Well,
Oliver.
But
that's right. I forgot Arn Anderson, because Arn Anderson came in the 70s, right?
Yeah. I mean, Tully and Arn grew up, came up together in the Four Horsemen. So
Yeah.
I mean, they probably both had about the same amount of experience. But so here's an interesting thing I don't know that everybody knows. Darby used to change and do all of his locker room stuff in whatever boiler room or janitor's closet, maintenance closet that was available away from everybody else before Sting came. And Sting saw him do it and was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Changing." He's like, "No, you come and change in my room." So, like, 'cause Sting has his own dressing room. Darby now dresses in Sting's dressing room. They're literally best friends. And the age difference is astounding. But that they literally, the way that they get along on TV is them in real life.
Awesome, though.
Darby's like, Sting calls me. He's like, "When are we filming our next vignette? What are we doing next? Let's go out and film some stuff. Let's do," he's reignited Sting's passion for the business.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Which is why he's in the ring now more than he.
I think
that
maybe is why I enjoy watching them both.
So Darby Allin on Instagram after their last show, not Rampage, but Dynamite, people were stuck in traffic leaving the arena.
I saw that.
This? Yeah,
I saw it. Yeah.
Sting and Darby are riding together in a rental car going back to the hotel, and they're behind someone, and then Darby's like, "Let's do this," and they get out and they run up and they knock on the window of the car in front of them.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Well, the car's license plate was AEW. To be fair, that was their license plate. It said AEW, so they knew that they were fans. So yeah, they got out the car, knocked on the window, and they're like, AEW, and freaked these guys out. So
I would have cried. Awesome. Like, I am so like in my own head when I'm driving. So if you knock on my window, you're gonna make me pee my pants. Like, and then on top of that, have it be like Sting or Darby Allin, I would have been like, I don't even know what to do with myself right now.
Right? Yeah.
So where do you see Darby in like the next 5 years?
It's hard to say. I honestly, I don't know that they'll ever put the world title on him. I would like to see it at least once, even if it's just for a couple months. Do I see him staying in AEW long term? I'd be hard pressed to say yes. There are other places that he could go and thrive. I'd love to see him go to Japan and do some great stuff with those guys over there. I feel like his style would be crazy with what they do in New Japan.
So you think he could handle the strong style?
Yeah, definitely. He would hate himself in the morning because he doesn't take any sort of painkillers because he is straight edge. Yeah. So, like, when he got thrown down those stairs and hurt his shoulder, nothing. He's like, somebody asked him about it, and he said that he just keeps moving until he can't move anymore, and then falls asleep and hopes that when he wakes up in the morning, it doesn't hurt anymore. So, he's
I'm sure he takes a lot of ice baths.
All right, so I hate to say this, but like, if anybody who is like extra sensitive to those things and doesn't take things, so most like that is like our mantra. Just keep moving until we can't move anymore. Go to sleep and hope it goes away.
Yeah,
that's how we.
And he does say he does a lot of cryotherapy, so a lot of ice and cryo.
He got his neck hurt by the chair, and then he kept coming back.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Sting and Darby Allin. Let's talk about Sting, who is 62 years old, and then does that flying dive off of the stage.
I was honestly shocked. I was shocked. Like, I feel like he wears padding underneath that T-shirt.
I hope so, because
But like,
I mean, and this was a guy who grew up in Venice Beach, California. Did the whole Gold's Gym thing, and you know, wasn't even into wrestling, and just kind of got looked at because of Hogan or something, or
yeah,
because it was like him, Hogan, and Flair were part owners of the Gold's Gym back in the day.
But I think his workout and the way he took care of his body, I think that definitely helped him now to be as fit as he is. Like, I haven't seen him without a shirt on, but
right. Well, we're with him working with Darby. I think Darby has kind of shown him some ways to that, like, maybe he didn't even know. You know, well, if you do this, but you do this, you won't get hurt, and you can still go through a table. You know, I mean, because at 62, there's no way that I would ever agree to go through a table. Hell, I'm 41 and I wouldn't agree to go through a table. I mean,
no. There are days when I've walked up the flight of stairs and I'm like, I think I should just stay inside.
I about broke my knee at Busch Gardens, fell down 3 steps and landed on some concrete. I'm still in pain. Got an MRI next Tuesday. So I mean,
we always laugh. Like, our joke between us now is, every time something happens like that, we're like, oh, this is 40.
You're not wrong. My mom was with us, thankfully, and she had a motorized scooter, so we kind of traded off and on for the rest of the day. So, because they offered me a wheelchair, and I'm like, I'm not going to be that family where one person has a motorized wheelchair, and my wife has pushed me around in a regular wheelchair because I was an idiot and fell down some stairs. So, it is what it is.
Let's move away from the talent real quick, and let's talk about this man right here.
Good old Tony Khan.
And how he approaches the business compared to Vince and Bruce and Kevin Dunn, you know, over there. Was it Johnny Ace?
Yeah.
Johnny Laurinaitis? Yeah.
Yeah. Good old Johnny.
Now, Tony Khan grew up outside of Chicago, a wrestling fan. Grew up during the Attitude Era, because he is our age. He's a little bit younger. He's 39. So he runs the business differently. He runs it as a fan, but he also runs it because he's an analyst. What's the word?
An analyst.
And like analyst type, like
he's into analytics.
Yes, that's the word. Logistics and all that stuff.
Sure.
How do you feel about how Tony Khan runs AEW? Do you think he's doing it the right way? I'm sure, you know, ratings and fans.
Will say
yes, but what do you think?
Yes and no. I mean, I feel like he's running it like I would run it if I had all the money in the world and started a wrestling company. But I know that I make a lot of mistakes. You know, I mean, he's running it well, but things like the whole situation with Big Swole could have been handled better. I mean, yeah, she came out and said some stuff, but at the same time, maybe don't address it publicly in the forum that he did. I mean, you don't see WWE coming out and going, well, we didn't do what they said we did. You know, it's just take the criticism and move on, and maybe talk about it behind closed doors. But I feel like he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with that whole situation, including Leo Rush, who is now leaving AEW. I don't know if you saw that. He's gone again, or
That's
leaving again.
That's too bad. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, like I loved his character in AEW. I thought he was doing a good job with Dante Martin.
I feel like a lot of people didn't read the whole article.
Yes, like, and that's the problem, is it's all headlines now.
If you're going to read if you read the whole, like, because when I first heard the headline and then I read what was said back to it, I'm like, well, what's going on? And then I went back and read what she said, and I was like, well, she didn't say anything bad.
No,
she just said, I just feel like she said what was on her mind, and I feel like that's fair.
I agree.
whether you're being let go or not, I think you have a right to say what you want to say. But she never said anything bad about the company. She just said that there are a lot of times when she would have to put over someone who was not a minority. And
Correct.
that's not wrong entirely. And so now look at all of the people who are now putting over Jade Cargill. And so I just wonder if there was just a plan for who it was going to be versus how it was going to be. Well, like, I feel like Jade got a push, and I'm sorry, but Jade is very green.
Yeah, she doesn't deserve to have a title yet.
She rubs people the wrong way, and she might be huge, but she just, I don't know.
She's there because of Shaq. She came from the fitness world.
Well, she was a basketball player. She came from the fitness world.
Okay, Brent Baker can say, "I'm that bitch," and da 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 or whatever, and then but then she'll say it, and it just burns me. Or even when Brandy came out and said it, like, I mean, I get it. Like, okay, she was making a point to the idiot.
Yeah.
The idiot. What is his name? Jesus.
Lambert.
Dan Lambert. Yeah. And she was making a point, but I just feel like there's a certain way that Britt can say it that other people can't. And it irritates me when other people say it, and it doesn't irritate me when Britt says it. It didn't really. I mean, legit. It didn't really bother me when Brandy said it either, because if you know where Brandy comes from, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
You can take the girl out of Detroit, but you can't take Detroit out of the girl. So.
Yeah.
Hence why a lot of people don't understand me, because you can take the girl out of Flint, but you can't take Flint out of the girl.
Oh, I tell people that I grew up there, and they're like, "Really? What was that like?" I'm like, "It was fine." It's like, none of this stuff bothers me. That, like, I used to work in like the kind of ghetto area of Louisville, and people are like, "How do you work out there?" I'm like, "It doesn't bother me. I grew up around worse." I grew up around worse, except we have better water here.
Yeah.
So
my kids are like, where they were drinking lead and now they have brain damage, and I'm like, yeah.
Yep, that's what happened.
But they said the same thing about people in New Jersey too. So.
But then I want to say, well, then what's your excuse? Because there's no lead in your water. Right. But you can take the girl out of Flint, but you can't take the Flint out of the girl. So.
Yeah, but like, to hop back to Big Swole.
But yeah, that's what we're talking. Sorry.
Was she really moving the needle though? Like, were the fans really into her? Because like, I mean, I understand where Tony was coming from. Like, should he have said it the way he said it? No.
He should have never attacked her skill publicly. He could have said, "I don't agree with what she's saying as far as the color of our skin, but we'll do better." And he could have left it at that.
Yeah.
Like, he could have left it at that. So he didn't have to go into it and attack her as a person.
So, Brian, going back to your point, was she moving the needle? Not as much in year 2 and year 3 as she was in year 1, but that's because they relegated her to Dark and Elevation. When was the last time that she was actually on an episode of Dynamite?
And that was her big complaint.
I mean, like, she's a good wrestler. She really is. You guys have been to like SuperCon and all of that stuff down in Florida, right?
Not SuperCon.
No, not SuperCon. So they have a thing called Fantasy Cosplay Wrestling, and it's actual like legit wrestlers that are some of them are in the pros now, dress up as different characters. Chris Statlander was Rogue, for instance. But I watched her wrestle there a few times at different.
Oh, that's the one where they are in cosplay and they're basically acting out their characters.
Correct.
They had like a Ken and Ryu like fight each other.
Yep. She played Storm. Big Swole did. That's how I actually first saw her wrestle, was in that, and she's fantastic. And so she's got the skills, and she's been around. So why drop her down to a show that's only on YouTube that, again, the casual fan isn't going to go and watch, because most likely they either A, don't know about it because they talk about it maybe briefly during a Dynamite,
yeah,
or they don't bring it up at all. And it's on Mondays on YouTube, which most casual fans are going to be watching Raw when it's on. So they're never going to see her there. So how is she supposed to move the needle if she doesn't have a chance to anywhere that matters with ratings?
And when you look at it all in that bigger picture sense of the word, like if you're looking at it as, and she mentioned that in the article that, you know, if you only put me on this show, then I can't do what I could do. And this is true. Like, I mean, the best part about AEW is that there is, like, I don't want to say a revolving door of talent, but you don't see the same people all the time. And that's what makes it good, is that the only person you pretty much see all the time is CM Punk. And
well, like Danielson was wrestling every single week
up until recently.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get it. I do. But
at the same time, that revolving door of talent is why they don't have good storylines.
And that's
because
true.
they don't keep people consistent during.
And then nobody's eyes are on it long enough.
Right.
Like,
I think if the fans gravitate towards something, that's when the story continues.
Yeah.
Well, because they don't have like 1,000 writers like WWE, which I think that's what hurts WWE over AEW. I mean, sure, AEW, they're trying to do it. Tony Khan's way of thinking is do it old school style, where the wrestlers like kind of work.
Get to be their own.
They all have their own input. They don't have creative control, but they have input into creating their stories. Yes.
Right. He gives them the bullet points, and then they have to follow those. But other than that, they pretty much bring their own thing.
Right. But back to your point about the writers, what does it matter how many writers WWE has when Vince tears up the script 3 hours before the show and rewrites it himself like almost every week? That's why we get the same matches over and over and over and over and over and over.
That's why Freddie Prinze Jr. left, because he would, Well,
if you're not going to accept what they write, then why do it? Like, why am I putting the time in for you to change it?
Well, then recently I saw something that Vince is like, yeah, I want to retire someday. Well, if you want to retire someday, you need to start handing over some of the things that you have been notorious for doing to other people. Yeah. Let your writers do their job.
Well, here's what people wanted. People wanted Triple H to take over, and look what he did with NXT. NXT brought, oh my God, NXT was awesome. The black and gold, like from what Triple H and Dusty Rhodes did to NXT was awesome. And then Vince and Bruce took over, and this. And now,
how are you gonna fire William Regal? I'm just saying.
I bet you William Regal goes to AEW.
I think he might hang out for a while and just kind of do his own thing. Like, I don't think we see him for a bit. If he does show back up, it will be in AEW most likely. But I could see him going to Impact too.
So it might be Impact, actually.
Yeah. Well, if you look at wrestlers in a whole, the way that they talk about AEW, I mean, they talk about there's a lot of options, but a lot of them gravitate towards AEW, because it is the hot thing right now. I mean, will it be the hot thing next year if they keep going the way that they are? Yes.
But there's a place for development too. Like, you have to look at it too. It's like some people, in order to develop, they develop within the parameters of somebody's thing. Like they need a script, and they need someone to tell them what to do, and they need someone to, guide them. Other people already have a character. Like you wouldn't see MJF as MJF in WWE because
you'd see him as a random security guard, like the 3 times that we saw him.
Right. You're not going to see him as him. You're going to see him as whatever.
Yeah, but if he goes to WWE, he'll be MJF.
But now,
yes.
But as a developmental talent,
they'll change his name.
They'll water him down so bad too. He won't be the same person.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
he'll have the same attitude, but they won't let him keep his name.
They won't let him talk the way he talks. And granted,
well, he came from Major League Wrestling, right? Wasn't he MJF in MLW as well before he came to AEW?
Yeah, I mean, that's his name.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that WWE is going to let him keep his name.
because they want to be able to trademark it,
Yeah.
just like the whole Walter thing.
Oh my God, that's another NXT thing. Let's just keep stacking them up.
Yeah, but before we move on from Tony Khan, I did want to say I like how he's very approachable, how he goes on to podcast and how he comes out before every event and after the event. It's something you don't see WWE do. That just shows me he cares.
Yeah, but they're also, as big as they are, they're small enough that he can still do that. They have the time that they can fill with that, and he has the want to do that. Whereas, Vince probably doesn't even stay for the entire show.
True.
He probably stays for the first 2 hours and then dips out and goes back to his hotel or gets on a flight and flies home in his private jet. So, you're right. It does show that they care. He did come out at our show, but it was very short and mostly Cody talked after the show. So it wasn't a lot.
Our first show that we went to was the Orlando show that they did in October.
Okay.
And that was the one that set up CM Punk versus Bobby Fish.
Yeah.
And then we went to New Year's Smash in Jacksonville in December.
That's
so
awesome.
We got to see Rampage and Dynamite, and then actually the night before we saw Dark.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that was at Daly's place. That was awesome.
And at Dynamite after the show, the one guy who'd been in the business for like 40 years
retired.
He was retiring, so they did this whole
the producer
they did
all the
this
stuff that
whole
they did for
big
that.
like goodbye to him, and everybody that had worked with him was in the ring, and it was really cool because Cody was like, okay, as safe as y'all possibly can, everybody bring it in, and he's like, come down. He says, because we want you to be as close to this as possible. And I was like, that's really, most of us kind of stayed back a little ways because it's just too much. But it was just like that love that they gave to this person. And I don't know, it was just different than how I felt when I'd go to, I'd gone to WCW shows. I went to WWE shows. I went to WWF shows. I went to the incarnations of a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I never went to Ring of Honor, and I don't think I ever went to Impact. But the incarnations of other places, you didn't get that same feeling.
Yeah.
So
I've been to WWE, obviously AEW, and I've been to it when it was still TNA. They did Slammiversary in Detroit one year. It was the free Slammiversary. They're like 10-year one. I went to that, and that was pretty awesome. That's the only pay-per-view that I've ever been to. But
TNA didn't do a lot of traveling. They were just mostly at Universal Orlando.
Yeah, they only basically traveled for pay-per-views. So
we saw the
when we lived in Vegas, we
went to No Mercy or No Way Out.
No Way Out, yeah. That was they didn't have the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view yet, but that No Way Out was when they had the Elimination Chamber. That was the one.
Was that the first Elimination Chamber?
No, it wasn't the first one, but it was the pay-per-view that set up Mayweather versus Big Show.
Okay.
Because Mayweather was in the audience and Big Show came out, and they had that whole scuffle,
yeah.
I rolled my eyes.
But who was in that? Who was in that?
Still rolling your eyes.
Chamber? John Cena was in that match, right? And Undertaker, I believe, and Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
And then so the Thomas and Mack Center was where it was, and if you went behind the Thomas and Mack Center, they had this gate, and so a lot of the wrestlers, that's where their cars were parked. So a lot of them were putting stuff in their car. And
like
stuff.
Kofi was out there.
We would all come out and we were all out there waiting.
Yeah, I did that when we went to Slammiversary. I met Samoa Joe and the Motor City Machine Guns. Tried to meet AJ Styles, but even back then he had 2 security guards walking him as far away from other people as he could get so that nobody talked to him. So, yep.
Because we saw Kofi Kingston and we saw
John
Morrison and The Miz, and we saw Dolph Ziggler, I think.
Yeah.
And John Cena was the only one who walked the whole fence. Like walked the whole
That doesn't
gate.
surprise me. That guy's
And
amazing.
Shook hands and just said hi to everybody. It wasn't like he stopped and talked for a long time, but he at least made a presence.
And he was still in his ring gear.
Nice.
Which is pretty
still
much
in character.
But whatever.
I mean, yeah.
But I mean, it's a different feeling when you go to AEW. I just feel it. I feel different.
Like the
about
crowd, like the energy is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The only thing that rivals AEW was when we went to NXT that time.
Oh, at full sale?
When it was at full sale, when it was black and gold, that was the only time the audience was the same.
Yeah, we went to 2 NXT events. We went to an actual NXT taping that was at full sale for the WWE Network, and then we went to they were at the Lakeland Armory. But when we went to full sale, that was the time it was Asuka was the NXT Women's Champion taking on the crazy Scottish girl,
Nikki
Cross. And it was like a no holds bar match basically, and we were sitting right in front of the commentator booth.
I don't know how you remember that.
And I remember that's when they got the ladder and they climbed up the ladder and they fell through the commentating booth. Yeah,
I mean we had a really good time there, and we had a really good time the second time we went.
Who was there? Bobby Roode was there. Drew McIntyre. Mm-hmm. He came over and said hi to Brighton.
Yeah.
And Oliver and Shane.
And now we had gone to like the only other places where it's that much fun is indie shows. And it's only fun if the people know the indie wrestlers. So like when we went to the indie show for the Hardy Boys, when they were gonna be on the WrestleMania, when they were WrestleMania.
When they did their little show beforehand the day before.
Yeah, it was like a barbecue.
It was like a barbecue thing and a meet and greet and everything. And we had a good time there, but I didn't know anybody.
Like I knew some of the independent wrestlers that were there. Like ACH was there. And darn it, he's in Impact now. It'll come to me. I'll think of it later.
But I didn't know any of the
He was recently the Impact World Champion, like before Moose.
Eddie Edwards?
No, before that. He's the one that lost it to the girl.
Oh, God, why can't I think of that guy's name? I can't think of his name.
Because I remember because he fought Tully's daughter and lost it to her, and she became the Impact World Champion. Now I can't think of it now. It'll come to me later. But he was there. Mike Elgin was there.
Yeah, that guy. He was at the last indie show that I went to too.
And then we saw an indie show where we met Effie. He was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and Effie's like one of the hottest like on the independent circuit right now. There's a lot of talk about Effie. He's been hitting all the podcasts and stuff.
He's a really personable guy too. Like
and then the
fun to talk to.
The biggest indie wrestler that was at that show was Nick Gage.
Oh yeah,
who's very hard.
That guy's nuts. Yeah. That guy's nuts. Trying to find out who the guy was that Tessa beat for that title, but I can't find it. The last indie show that I went to that was a legit indie show. There was a guy, his gimmick is the Natty Daddy and like natural light, so he comes out with beer, and he's got like the Canadian maple leaf, like the whole logo on his trunks, the whole deal. He was in a hardcore match and he brought a 30-pack of beer out. Well, the dude that hit him with the 30-pack accidentally let it go into the crowd, and I got hit in the wrist with a 30-pack of beer because I was in the second row.
Jesus.
So yeah, full contact indie show for me on that one. So
Yeah. So yeah.
So can we please talk about the next one on that?
Yeah. Let's talk about this guy right here.
I love Cody Rhodes. I don't care what anybody says. I think he's great.
I love him too. Like, aside from the neck tattoo and the weird blonde hair.
Sure, the neck tattoo is a little bit off-putting. I feel like he could have placed it in a better location. I don't know.
He could have put it right on the other side of his chest, and it would have worked just fine. Why did you put it right there?
I do love the Dan Lambert promo he cut on Cody.
Yes.
I thought that was hilarious when he talked about him having a Transformer tattoo on his neck.
Yeah. But my favorite thing is that he got it even though Brandy hates it. She's like, she hates the fact that he has a neck tattoo.
Yeah.
And he still did it anyway.
Yeah.
So
Cody is an EVP of AEW. He was.
But is he still?
Well,
I think he is. I think this whole like signing thing is part of. He is a heel. He's playing the heel that's in denial.
I agree.
There's a certain.
I agree. He's been a heel since the first time that he said he wasn't going to turn heel. He's been a heel since then. And if people don't see it, they're just stupid. I'm sorry. They are. He's been a heel. I'm just waiting for him to use this contract being expired to go after the world title.
Yeah. I have a feeling this Wednesday it's in Cleveland.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of signs pointing Johnny Gargano shows up. I wouldn't be surprised Johnny Gargano shows up. People are going to be excited, but I have a feeling he's going to align himself with Cody and cost Sammy that match.
So I don't think he'll show up, just for the fact that I don't think that he's going to come back until after Candice has the baby and they've had some time. Because I don't think she's had the baby yet, has she?
No, she has the baby in February. But I can see him showing up saying that he's here and putting people on notice, and then
why couldn't he just show up in the audience, like just going to the show?
I know there's a lot of signs, and here's the signs, and Cody plays into it. First of all, when Johnny opened his pro wrestling shirt site, one of the shirts is only on sale until the 25th. Dynamite is on the 26th.
Okay.
Cody's latest cryptic message on Twitter, he used the don't bet or always bet on yourself.
Yeah.
And Johnny, that's
on his shirt.
Is on his shirt.
And that was the whole DIY thing too. They always bet on themselves when it was him and Ciampa. So
yeah. So like I think they're doing basically the same thing that they did with CM Punk, where Omega wore the Cookie Monster shirt, and the one week, and then the next week he wore.
So it's homage to hardcore wrestling fans, not just
people know about
casual watcher, because the casual watcher is not going to get it. Like Brian was like, Omega wore the da, and I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? Like,
I noticed it.
I'm like, but this is the memory of I know who the main event was on the show that we saw 3 years ago, or 10 years ago. I'm like, I don't fucking remember that.
Yeah.
But honestly, like if I was Candice, like I would want him to take the time off. I would want him to not do all of that, to start a whole storyline that he can't necessarily finish, and be a dad for a while, because that had him in tears. Like I don't think that was a show. Like I really think he is excited about being a dad, and I don't think he would do anything to screw that up, because she wants out of her contract too, or she wouldn't show up on TV as much as she does.
Yeah,
just saying.
Well, I was the one that brought that to attention, that she would show up pregnant,
and I didn't realize. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
until
Yeah, because she's not sitting on the sidelines, so they're not going to tack that time onto her contract. Yeah.
But anyways, I just feel like he's gonna be involved. I mean, there was people saying that because he's friends with the best friends, he could come in and kind of even the odds with them and the elite. But I don't know. I think he's gonna align himself with Cody.
Speaking of the best friends, How much longer do you think it's going to be before Trent turns on them?
You know, he is kind of showing that a little bit.
Based on that last match.
I'm just saying, like, ever since he's been back, like, if you watch when the other guys talk, the way that he reacts, he's not about it anymore. Like, and his whole look has changed and his attitude.
Yeah, and the way he always treats Yuta, like, who the hell are you? You know,
right? Yeah, he'll turn on them before long. I feel like now that his buddy from New Japan, like, they can tag team again.
Rocky,
yeah, bringing in Rocky was a great thing for them too, but I feel like that was just a vehicle to get Trent away from them.
Yeah. Oh, and the thing about the whole, like, Johnny and Candice thing, Kyle O'Reilly's wife was pregnant and he signed with AEW and they just had their baby the other day.
That's true, but everybody's different.
Well,
like, you know, like there's the whole idea of, like, okay, so when I was pregnant with Bright and you stayed at the hospital with me because there was somebody that could watch Shane because Shane was older, that was one thing. But when we have a 3-year-old at home, you can't stay at the hospital with me because of that. So, like, our things changed. Like, our life changed.
Yeah.
Kyle O'Reilly, yeah, he loves his daughter, and I'm not saying that he doesn't. He just, like, their understanding of how their life is going to be is different, you know. And he didn't go on camera and cry about being a dad. Like, I'm just saying. Like, everybody's thing is different.
But you also got to remember, this is professional wrestling, and so, like, they always give you red herrings too.
Yes, I know, and you really like to be right.
Sometimes
you piss me off.
I guess we'll find out
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
You are right, but I'm just saying that.
The other reason I don't think he shows up necessarily on Wednesday is that, you know, Turner had that whole fit when they brought Sting in without telling them. He's a big enough name that they would want probably advance notice, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they didn't do it for the other two.
For Punk, Adam Cole, and Bryan Danielson, Warner did know.
Yeah, but they also showed up at a pay-per-view. I mean, for the most part.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm one of those people that's like, it never has bothered me for spoilers. So whatever happens, happens. It's just, I don't need to know beforehand. Like, I don't need to know. And if I find out, oh, well. And, you know, like, this whole, like, the worst kept secrets, like, it's happening in movies and it's happening in wrestling. It's like, we kind of knew, and everybody was like, the surprise that you didn't know was a surprise, but it was a surprise. Because everybody was like, no, it couldn't possibly happen because there's too many things that are saying that it is.
Yeah.
And then I got my ass chewed out for the Spider-Man thing. But
I saw that, and that was BS. I'm sorry.
Like,
you were in the right. You were fine.
I'm like, it's been like 3 days. Well, it was more than 3 days. Actually, it's like a week.
Yeah.
And I was like, you guys are dumb if you think that it wasn't going to happen. Like, are you surprised? Like, I never understood this.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
And it wasn't like you posted anything official either. You posted
fan art. It was fan art. I'm like,
it was fan art. I thought it was awesome. Your post was awesome, and then people got all mad, and I was just like, oh, people.
I had 2 people unfriend me for that.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, okay,
it's a movie, guys.
So are you the
yourself.
Cody Rhodes of Facebook now?
Fuck, I guess so. I don't care.
So Nick, you want to go ahead and talk about Cody Rhodes? You said you really love Cody and what he's doing, and
I mean, honestly, like, he's probably one of the best heels that they've got right now, just because he's forcing people to think that he's a face. And it's pissing everyone off. It's pissing off the casual fans. It's pissing off the hardcore fans. It's pissing everyone off. And it makes me laugh because he's doing such a good job of being the good guy while at the same time just totally not.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
So where do you see him story wise this year? After this whole thing with Sammy and the TNT title, do you feel like they may drag it out a little bit? Do you feel like he's gonna move on to I don't know, someone like a CM Punk or a Bryan Danielson?
So here's my thought, and I don't know if I'm right, but this is where my brain goes with this. He loses the title on Wednesday to Sammy. Sammy wins it in the ladder match. He re-signs a new contract, but because it's a new contract, because he let the other one expire, his clause of not being able to go for the world title is no longer in effect, and he tries to take out Paige.
Interesting.
That actually.
So if we're looking at March at Revolution, it looks like it's going to be Lance Archer and Paige for the title. And it looks like they're setting up Mox versus Danielson.
Yep.
Yep. Sammy, I don't know, maybe one more match, Sammy and Cody, like a definitive match. Maybe
I think this will be it for that. I mean, for now at least, I don't think that after Wednesday there will be another one. The unification match will seal it, and Sammy will get it back. Cody's had it 3 times. He doesn't need to. I mean, I guess my question becomes: if he wins the match on Wednesday, does he become a 4-time champ, or is he still just a 3-time champ because of the interim title? Because it's a unification.
That is interesting. Yeah.
So
what is they have a ladder match at Revolution, right? And what's this? I'm trying to think what the stipulation is for that, because MJF was talking to Wardlow about it.
Is that the brass ring one that Scorpio Sky won last time? The brass ring ladder match that did absolutely nothing for Scorpio Sky's career other than bury him.
It might be. I just remember something about like it gives him some kind of title. It might be
title opportunity.
It may be a TNT title opportunity. I guess because MJF said if Wardlow wins, or when he wins, he has to give that opportunity to MJF.
Yeah, that'll be the point where he turns on him if he wins it. That's going to be the turning point right there. Is that when Wardlow wins that match, because since they said that's the most obvious choice for your story, because there's already you put your hands on me, so I'm docking your pay. So we're moving it forward. Next step is he refuses to give him the title shot that he earns at the ladder match. Then he either gets fired by MJF, and gets an actual contract, or they have a match to determine who gets that title match, or it becomes a triple threat, which the triple threat thing is more of a Vince thing, so I don't see it going that route.
Before we hop back into Cody, I would love to see Wardlow actually powerbomb MJF
through a table
during the MJF CM Punk match.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Oh, wait,
though people think MJF is gonna go over on CM Punk.
I think that'll be Punk's first loss. I agree.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a talking point for MJF then. Like, I think it would be like it would bring fruition to everything he said. Like in every promo, it's kind of like been
Punk's never been in there with like the big timer yet.
Me, blah 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 blah. Yeah. So
give him a little bit of credit and let him and it would be great if MJF went over clean, to be honest, because he doesn't really do that often. So it would be nice to see a match where Wardlow refuses to help and he still wins.
And there's no interference from anybody
Spears
else.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if you've noticed, but in the matches with Punk, as the more matches he has, the more it's all coming back to him. I'm starting to see the Punk that I knew in the 2010s era.
I'm still surprised he agreed to take 8 power bombs. in one match.
True.
I mean, really, it was
But I feel like there's that light in his, like, the light was there when he first came, but like it gleams a little bit more. Like
he's having a good
there's-
time.
He's really having fun.
His return was better than The Rock's. The Rock, you could see the rust. Punk,
Yeah,
there is rust, but he wasn't as rusty as The Rock when The Rock came back and fought CM Punk for the title.
I agree. But Punk's also changed his style up a little bit too. So
well, did you see the Punk Darby match and the Punk Wardlow match were Bret Hart matches?
Yeah, they really were.
It was
somebody put them side by side.
Wardlow and Punk was Diesel versus Bret Hart, and Darby and him and Punk was 1, 2, 3 Kid and Bret Hart.
Yeah,
And you know what?
But Punk has said he's a huge Bret Hart fan. So
they have both said they were huge fans of, like, Bret Hart said Punk said he was a huge Bret Hart fan, and even Darby Allin said that he was a huge CM Punk fan. So at the end of the day, like, they're paying like serious homage to the years past.
yeah.
And I think that that's important too. Like, I mean, like, I used to complain about people that were like right in the family name. It was like, well, they're this or they're that, like.
Yeah,
I used to say this about Randy Orton. Like,
well, but Randy Orton's proven
but
he's way better.
Proven he's way better than his dad. So at the end of the day, I was like, okay, well, I got learned on that one. It's fine. But
he's also the safest in the business.
But nobody could have been happier that was the match that Edge came back to. And I will always and forever be an Edge girl. And I have a hard time not watching him.
Yeah, I'm so ready for this intergender match with him and Beth. I think it's going to be a great match.
I will watch for that, though.
That's next week, right?
Like, I am super excited about seeing them in the ring together again. Like,
so
I love them so much.
I'm gonna say something that a lot of people are probably. I don't know if it's a hot take, but The Miz is great. He's a great wrestler. And if people don't think so, that's fine. But he's a safe wrestler. He's had one injury that kept him out of action in the entire time that he has been a wrestler. He has never really injured anyone, tells great stories, and shows up all the time.
And he's great on the mic.
He has mic skills. He has in-ring skills. He puts people over, and he can tell a story. He is a Hall of Famer first ballot, in my opinion, and that will piss a lot of people off. But I feel like that's just how it is. I mean,
I think people have an issue with him because he came from a reality world.
Yeah, how many years ago was that? Get over it.
They still carry that forever. It's just like, how do you pick so and so to play so and so in this movie when he came from this? It's like, it's the same thing. It's this, they don't really deserve to be there kind of thing. And
how are you making Robert Pattinson as Batman when he was in Twilight?
Have you seen the 10 movies he's done?
But negate the other 10 things he's done.
Yeah, exactly.
And granted,
everything else.
And granted, most of what The Miz brings to the table is a lot of his shtick with Maurice and
but I mean, she was gone for a lot of years.
But it's okay. Like, that's what you come to really expect from him, and that's where he is playing the game. And I think that everybody should play to their strengths, and that's his strength.
Yeah, he's one of.
And I don't hate the guy. Like, I've never met him, so I don't know. Now,
he's one of the most consistent heel and best heels that WWE has.
And he is. You're right. He's consistent. Like, he's always there. He always shows up. I mean, I think that's huge.
I think one of the best runs was the him and Jericho.
Yeah.
When Jericho, what was it? His second return or was it third? I'm trying to remember. Because Jericho pops in and out of WWE like
so many times.
Yeah.
He is good, and I agree with you on that one too. I like.
If anybody, to go back to your Royal Rumble question, if anybody's going to be in the Rumble, it'll be Jericho.
I don't see it. I don't see
I don't
it.
think so.
Mhm.
Jericho. I feel like Jericho's got too many things going on right now.
Well, I mean, they're just
So-
trying to find. They got to fill spots. I mean, how many?
Well, I mean, they definitely have to fill spots for the women's match since they only had 19 full-timers on their roster, I think, for women, which is why they're bringing in so many legends.
I'm so annoyed by their women's division right now.
Yeah.
I'm
But-
just like, I can't even.
I got to hear Nick's take though on Cody outside of being the in-ring performer and the stuff that he brings to AEW as a longtime wrestler from a legacy family. How do you think he's done with the company on that part?
I think that he is a big reason why we have a lot of the people there that we do. I mean, honestly, he's got the name, and he said it, and he said it in the promo this past week. He built the Forbidden Door. I mean, he didn't really. Let's look back. Like Mike Awesome did the exact same thing, but who remembers Mike Awesome other than the ECW, WWE stuff, where he was just kind of a nothing? But he did the same stuff. He went everywhere.
Yeah, well, back in '91 when Flair came with the NWA championship, the big gold belt.
Yeah, but I mean, just Cody's been everywhere. He's been in NWA. He's been in Impact. He's been in New Japan. He's been in WWE. He's been in Ring of Honor. He's been everywhere. He's made friends. He's made contacts, and he brought that to the table. In addition, he brought the Bucks in with Omega, and they created something fantastic. But I don't think that comes together without Cody. I don't think AEW exists without Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, I think his father,
that's my opinion.
His father Dusty was one of the smartest people in the business, and I think he's learned a lot. And then plus his brother Dustin.
Yeah. I feel like out of all of that, like what you see in the ring, this like what you see in the ring is not what you hear when he talks in an interview. And so when he talks about his dad or when he talks about his brother, like what was that interview we watched where he was so humble about where he was? He's like, I will never have the career that my dad had, and I will never have the career that my brother has had.
Oh,
he said
that was Barstool.
Was that wrestling? It was, and I was just, I think that was the first time that I really listened to what he said, like the words that came out of his mouth, and I was like, this is a guy who essentially, I mean, this is a kid. I mean, I know he's almost our age, but really, I mean, like I watched him grow up in wrestling, so it's kind of, kind of a kid. Right. But like, this is a kid who kind of sees outside of the box, but also understands what he's been given. Like, he understands that everything he made out of what he had was because his dad was this pioneer, this
visionary.
His dad was also a promoter.
I mean,
which a lot of people forget. They think of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, as the wrestler, but they forget that he was huge, had a huge impact here in the state of Florida.
Yeah,
but I also feel like he listened and he watched and he paid attention, and so he had a father who was into it, and so he loves and admires his dad, but he also loves and admires his brother, and he watched both of them and he paid attention to all of this stuff. I think he comes with a whole wealth of knowledge that people probably don't give him credit for, and also that pairing with that knowledge with Tony Khan's money and Tony Khan's passion, like I think those two coming together, I think that's what really created the seeds of AEW, and then bringing in these different people that are the pillars. Like I get that, like you've got a nice mesh of things that are happening. Is it perfect? No, but I would much rather watch AEW than WWE.
Yeah,
I'd rather pay to go to a show for AEW than WWE.
And so here's how I'm at right now.
You can see my jacket. My oldest son got me this jacket for Christmas.
That's fantastic. I watch WWE Raw. I don't watch SmackDown because it's Friday and I have other stuff to do. But I actually watch AEW. Like when Raw is on, I'm on my phone, or I'm doing something else and listening to it and paying sparing attention,
Right.
because it's the same shit every week over and over and over again. I've already seen this match 6 times. Why am I watching it again? AEW is something different every week. So I will say that AEW has probably reignited my fandom for wrestling a little bit more. Just because like now I subscribe to Impact on YouTube, so I watch all of their stuff. And I went to an Impact show a couple weeks ago.
Doesn't Impact have a TV deal with somebody?
They are on AXS.
Access TV?
Access TV, but I don't get that on YouTube TV, so I don't get to watch it. So I pay the $1 or $2 a month to watch it on YouTube and get all their back catalog too.
Oh, okay.
So, but they put on this amazing live event. Once, I think this was the second one. It's called Throwback Throwdown. It's an 80s throwback show where all of their wrestlers are completely different characters than they normally are. And it's just completely ridiculous. It's like, it's a ripoff of like a pay-per-view from the mid 80s. They dress up in day-glow outfits. Matt Cardona and Brian Myers came out as GI Bros, and like literally they're wearing like GI Joe attire, and they had super soakers and they're squirting everybody in the audience. And Moose came out and he was a rapper. He dressed up like Run DMC, and Willie Mack was dressed as Santa because it was around Christmas time, and he fought what's his name? One of the Good Brothers. Not Carl Anderson, the other one.
Luke Gallows.
Luke Gallows, but Luke Gallows' ring name was Sex Ferguson.
Oh, that was his character from the WWE thing that they did, right? The Southpaw Wrestling.
Yeah. So it's that. Yeah. So it was Sex Ferguson versus Santa Claus was the main event.
That's hilarious.
Heath Slater was there. He was dressed up as Elvis. It was probably one of the best things I've ever seen. It was just like they didn't take themselves seriously, and none of the characters were who they were, but it was just an amazing show. So, I mean, I wouldn't have gone to that 5 years ago, but now, because I'm seeing these people more in a different light than just the super polished WWE stuff. I'm more apt to go to a show like that,
Right.
So.
And speaking of YouTube, what do you think of Being the Elite?
I don't really watch it.
You don't watch it?
I don't watch it. I watched a little bit of it when it first started, but I kind of, now that AEW has a weekly show, I don't really watch it.
You
know.
You need to. It is hilarious. You see a lot of the different sides of some of these people.
I only watch it because Brian has it on, but
yeah.
So my new favorite. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but my new favorite person, and I was the only person who cheered him in the entire show. Like, everybody hates him so very much, and that's All Ego Ethan Page. So I love his vlog and his toy hunting and pretty much everything. So the entire show that he did with Ruby Soho at Buc-ee's was priceless. I loved it. And I don't care about I don't care about the shirtless, opening the curtain of the hotel room. I don't care about any of that. I just think I'm the happiest person when he's being a dork. I love the fact that he was a real guy before he became a wrestler. I love the fact that he has a kid. I love the fact that he's a great big dork like the rest of us.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that
the only person that can appreciate that.
And this is something that it's important to a lot of these people, is to have their vlogs and stuff.
Yeah.
Where WWE, they won't let you have a Twitch or anything.
Well, and that's a huge thing too. If you've never watched it, any of Adam Cole's Twitch stream, he's awesome. He named his chair, and when he gets up to go to the bathroom, he puts his chair in charge of the stream, and people will chat to the chair in his stream, and then he'll come back and read the comments. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then I guess
he's a
he
huge
has
fan,
a
too.
he has a rule that there's no wrestling talk in his Twitch because he just wants to like
He ignores it when people do.
yeah.
Well, and I think that we forget that people have other interests too. It's like
Yeah, he wants to talk about movies and games.
I don't want the only thing
Yeah,
people
he's a
talk to
huge
me
gamer.
about is teaching. Like I
Right.
don't want like people come up and say, "Oh, you're a teacher. So what do you think about?" And I'm like, I don't.
So
I
what
don't-
are your thoughts on critical race theory being taught in schools?
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about that
I
right
don't-
now.
I don't-
Thanks.
I don't want to talk to you about that. I don't want to talk about it in general because people have bastardized the whole subject. But
I agree.
that's beside the point.
Yep.
But it's like I don't want to talk about it like that. I don't. Even when I get home and Brian's like, "Hey, how was your day? Tell me about what happened." And I'm like, "No."
The only time
Yeah.
I talk about my work is when it's a really bad day and I need to vent about
The only
something.
time I talk about it is when my children are inappropriate. Like
Yeah.
that's the only time I want to tell the story. So
I
the
think
only
we're saying
time-
the same thing is that, yeah, because I work in, corporate America for a health insurance company. So, but I do, I work on the corporate side. So not with you, with like subscribers and executives that don't know how to click on a start button or, things like that. So
You just look at people and I'm like, I don't know how are you still?
how do you make $2.5 million a year and you don't know what the start button is in Windows? Yeah. And I'm sitting here making like less than 100K and I could probably do your job and my job at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, no joke. Like the kids were like, so one of the kids, and I don't know why he did this. Because the one kid in the back, now that I think about it, I think he was singing Kodak Black's Super Gremlin song. And he tried to play it for me, but I couldn't hear half of what was happening from his phone. So
was that the Gremlin post from earlier?
Yeah. And I'm like, did you just call me a gremlin? And I'm like, are you talking like the 80s movie that comes from a mogwai and it's the really ugly green thing that turns into this bag? And he's like, why would you call me that? And he's like, you don't know what a gremlin is, do you? And I'm like, I know lots of different, different definitions of the word. Let me look it up on Urban Dictionary.
Isn't a gremlin like one of those cars from the 70s?
That's also a thing, but yeah, that's not at all what. Yeah.
And so I was like, I opened the page and that's what I took the picture of and I sent to Brian. And I was like, oh my God, is that what he just freaking called me? I'm like, dude, you're 13.
All I'm saying is if these kids now if we talk like that when we were in school, we got our asses beat.
My mom would have killed me. I would not be here.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the show, he said he might have gone all the way back to elementary with you.
Is it elementary or is it junior high?
So.
I think it's elementary.
I think it was. I don't know, what elementary did you go to?
Elms.
Yeah, I went to Elms too.
Okay,
so yeah.
Long time.
How crazy is that? It's a long time.
So long.
But like my kids are floored by the fact like the kids that live in Bartow and like stay in Bartow and their families are from Bartow and their grandparents are from Bartow, they understand.
Yeah.
But then the other kids are like, how do you end up here? And I'm like, yeah, I legitimately left the same kind of city, moved to Las Vegas, and then ended up here. Like, what the hell was I thinking? I guess I missed it. I don't know. But like the kids were like, they were like, your 5th grade teacher just died.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm super sad about that.
I am so sad. Like he was my favorite.
So his son Ryan, I used to work with him at Best Buy in Flint, and he would come in and we would just chat. And he was such a great person, and it just made me so sad to see that. Apparently, he just like randomly had a heart attack at home. So it happens, but yeah, no, it was.
And I mean, he was older. Like I get it, but it's like we're never quite prepared for that. Like,
no,
if we were able to say, because when my first year of teaching was when my 1st grade teacher died, and if I had a chance to tell her how important she was to me, like I never got to tell her that. And I mean, like she was it. Like she
Yeah.
taught me how to read. She made sure I could do those things. And then she was there when my dad died. It was like that was the year that my entire life changed, and she was there for it all.
Right.
And I never, never knew. And then that really makes me sad. But
So let's talk about
small town life, right?
Right.
let's talk about somebody that CM Punk, the first thing out of his mouth he put her over was Britt Baker.
Yep. I like Britt Baker. I mean, I think she's doing a great job. Do I feel like she needs to drop the title already for a little bit? Yeah, probably like 3 months ago. But I mean, because it's getting a little stale.
Who do you
I
think?
feel like
Who do you
there
think
needs
it's
to
going to be?
be-
I would love it to be Statlander, but I don't know if that's where they'll go.
I don't know. I don't feel like they give Chris enough TV time where she's winning for it to be her.
No. I don't think
She's
she does either.
extremely talented, but the 10.5 months or whatever it was that she was on the shelf put her at a disadvantage in their small women's division.
Well, here's an out of the box name: Serena Deeb.
No, disagree.
No?
Disagree. She's there to put over other talent. That's her only purpose at this point in time. She's teaching them and putting them over. Yeah, she's squashing people right now, but there's a reason for it because her and Sheeta are going to have another go. So that's all that's for. I feel like I would like to see either Thunder Rosa or Ty Conti take the title. I think that Britt and Ty could have a real, like, their styles would be like a really good matchup. I feel like that would be a good match.
Well, if you remember, Thunder Rosa's tryout match with Britt Baker was the lights out match that they had.
Yeah.
I watched that match. I enjoyed that match after the fact. I didn't watch it when it was on, but I enjoy Thunder Rosa immensely. I think she doesn't get enough TV time. I would love to see her as champ.
I mean, she already was the NWA champ.
But here's the real of it. Like, Ty Conti and even Anna Jay made quite the stir in that street fight. So no matter how you look at it, and God, freaking people that are, it's so bloody. You know what? I'm tired of that.
Street fight, people.
It was a street fight. And they brought the absolute best they could to make that match happen.
Yeah.
And to make it entertaining and to make it different. And I am tired of people assuming that women can't be brutal.
Yeah.
And women can't do that. And they proved that night because they didn't care.
WWE.
They had a good ass
WWE time. Actually acknowledged that match and in a negative way. And apparently Warner Media didn't like that. Because I just saw that Warner Media made a statement on what WWE had to say about that match.
I feel like was.
Yeah, but I mean that's corporate America for you. But
they're so PG that of course they're gonna have bad things to say about something like that. I mean.
I just don't know how we come from,
Well, I mean, didn't they like
the Attitude Era and ruthless aggression to that?
Well, didn't they?
It's all about those dollars.
Yeah. Well, what about that thing that they did with Rey Mysterio and his eye? That wasn't too long ago. But anyway.
Well, I mean, let's talk about eye injuries and how freaking Aleister Black. Malachi Black, whatever you want to call him, is still selling his eye injury from WWE in AEW. I love it. I can't believe that they're allowing him to do it, like on the AEW side of things. Why would you? But at the same time, I think it's great.
Right. So
I mean, you wouldn't have seen that 10, 15 years ago. Like you would never see somebody bring a storyline over. It just wouldn't happen.
Right. So back on the whole Britt Baker thing.
Sorry.
I like I said, Thunder Rosa I think would be a good person to dethrone her. But I mean, I would like to see more women get a shot against her. I would like to see more women matches in AEW.
Yes, that is something that I will completely agree with. Let's give them more than one match an episode, if that. I mean, that's one of the people's biggest complaints is that the women's division is crap in AEW, and it's not that it's crap; it's that they don't get featured.
Yeah,
And they don't. I mean, how are people supposed to know who's out there if the matches aren't on TV? Which Rampage is probably the better bet for some of that, but they're not using it for that. I mean, we saw some women's matches during the TBS title on Rampage, but I feel like we should be seeing at least 1 to 2 women's matches on a Dynamite and at least one on every Rampage.
Yeah.
Well, without a doubt.
There is a rumor that Ember Moon may be coming over to AEW, which
I think that would be a good get, but I think she might go to Impact.
Yeah. Well, I would...
And I don't think that would be a terrible fit either. Like, here's where I'm at. If the women that are there are already not getting featured enough, you bring another woman over who's then again frustrated by it. And I mean, you just have to kind of, you're just gonna have to read the room. Like, if you're already kind of pissy that you're not being featured enough, then you're gonna bring another woman over that's not gonna get featured again. Like, that seems counterproductive to me.
Well, I kind of have a feeling that I think it's March when Discovery takes over Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And I mean, Warner Media right now is already high on AEW, and the way that Discovery, if you look at all their networks, Food Network and Home and Garden and Discovery and all their channels, how the CEO lets everybody run their network the way that they want. I think Discovery, when they take over Warner Media, they're going to look at AEW and they're going to want to do something with it to elevate it. So I think that we may see either a new show, whether it'll be because there's a rumor that HBO Max and Discovery Plus are just going to be merged into one platform.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, which I hope actually happens because it'll lighten my pocketbook a little bit.
Yeah. And having one platform where you can have HBO and Food Network and Discovery and all that all together, yeah, it makes sense.
I will say that there's a downside to that though, because they've taken a lot of shows off of regular cable and put them exclusively onto the streaming platforms. Like I'm a big paranormal guy, and like Ghost Adventures is no longer running first run on TV. It's running on Discovery Plus. And
it runs run on Discovery Plus, and then you get all the reruns, and they play it for like 4 hours.
Yep.
So it's hit or miss if you're going to get anything.
Yep.
And then all of the new stuff. So like A Haunting and all of the Eli
new
Roth
Ghost
stuff,
Hunters. Yeah.
New Ghost Hunter stuff. The Eli Roth one, A Ghost Ruined My Life. The other ones, they're not first run on TV anymore either. I don't even think the Eli Roth one. I don't even think it premiered on.
It didn't.
Yeah.
On TV. I don't even think it's on TV.
The reason why I had brought this up was because I'm sure they're looking at. I mean, everybody misses WWE Network, at least here in the United States.
Yep.
I mean, WWE Network is still open, just we can't have access to it because it's on Peacock. Warner Media, I'm sure, is looking at Universal, Comcast, and be like, well, we have AEW, and we should put AEW on our one of our streaming platforms. So I think this year, I believe Discovery will still feel that and be like, well, because of course a business is a business. They're going to do whatever they can to lure people to their streaming service.
Yeah.
Right, but you got to think about content though. Like I think what made a selling point for WWE Network was that there was all of this previous content. There was all of this content. I mean, like so much content.
So I in a perfect world, Warner Media does one thing. They create a wrestling station on their platform, on HBO Max, whatever, and they license NWA, Impact, Ring of Honor, and AEW.
And then that's how they'd have enough content for there to be a reason for it to happen.
And then that forbidden door gets kicked wide open, and 4 different companies with wrestlers moving between every company.
Yeah, and then
storylines everywhere.
New Japan is got a US promotion now, so
yeah, New Japan
and
strong.
Then us normal people who didn't know who Kenny Omega was before he was on AEW all the time.
Yeah,
I don't like him.
Yep.
So
You
I
would
don't like
see
him,
them.
but, like I get it. Like then us normal people, like I'm talking about me,
to go back.
Can go back and be like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. But I'm not gonna go back and watch his. I'm not gonna go back and watch his stuff because I don't care because I don't really like him.
Or like my wife who pissed
now
off me.
I would see him more. I would see their faces, and then when they came out, I'd be like, well, okay, yeah, I know kind of what that person's about.
You would go back and watch the old Bucks stuff though, because you hear so much about them.
I might, but maybe I wouldn't. Like I don't know. Like I don't. I care to? Do I have time for that? Like that's the whole thing. Like I, at this point in my wrestling fandom, would rather watch episodes of Dark Side of the Ring than
fair enough
anything else. Like
sure,
because it was just more interesting. Like
the thing about Dark Side of the Ring, it kind of condenses all of the good stories down into an hour, where you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours watching these storylines play out. You get the condensed version and you still get to the finish in an hour.
Well, and then they can tell a story. I mean, they tell a story about what happened, and like the whole
like a story that the company wouldn't actually tell.
The Owen Hart stuff. Enjoyed the Owen Hart one, and I very much enjoyed the Brian Pillman episode, and I very much enjoyed the Chris Benoit. The Chris Benoit episode made me cry.
So did the Eddie Guerrero episode.
To do. And the Eddie Guerrero, I sobbed underneath the table while I was cleaning something. Like I was going through a box, and I stopped going through the box and sat under the kitchen table and cried while I watched that episode.
In one of the wrestling groups on Facebook that I'm in, someone,
I don't know why I was sitting under the table, but
they did one of those unpopular
from the kids under the table.
And the one of the comments on the unpopular was that Dean Malenko was a better technical wrestler than Eddie Guerrero. So I commented under that comment and said Chris Benoit was better than both.
Yes.
And that stirred some things, but
it's a controversial take because he's so taboo now, and I mean I get it, but
you can't ignore the fact that
you can't ignore his career. You can hate how it turned out, but
he had this thing that will ever last, like cement him in pop culture forever.
Yeah,
for what happened, but let's think about how we got there.
Yeah, like, and you can't ignore, that him and Eddie won. Was it at WrestleMania? It was a WrestleMania, right? Wasn't it? They both won their titles.
Yeah.
Well, and you can't ignore. I mean, and I think in a way, like when you're looking at the fandom in general, like if you're getting a good wide understanding of things. Like when people talk about the Dark Side of the Ring episodes, and then they talk about how it was played out here and it was played out here, like you start to look at things in a bigger scope. Like I get why Owen's wife doesn't really want him to be acknowledged in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
like I get it.
But there's now she's aligned
bad
with
blood.
AEW.
There's always going to be bad blood, but this foundation was important to their family. And I feel like if she could get it to be aligned with someone who was going to do it justice,
which is Tony Khan and AEW, because it's already going to be a thing. So
because they truly admired him, and there's no hard feelings there because there's nothing to do with it. But I think like when people hear the whole story, because like nobody wants to tell the bad stuff, like. Nobody wants to talk about Snuka, and nobody wants to talk about how Ric Flair accosted a woman in an airplane, and nobody wants to talk about that because that's bad. Because we're all dumbasses back in the 90s when, people were doing things they shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
And now we're all PC and we got to be really careful about how we say things. Nobody wants to hear that story. So nobody wants to hear about the problems of self-doubt and drug addiction and overall paranoia due to steroid use. Why should we talk about that? That would be a terrible thing to talk about. But that's what led to that day.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap some things up here, I do want to ask you, what is the future of AEW in your eyes? Like, where do you see them in the next 5 years?
Honestly, that's going to depend a lot on who stays and who goes, because there's a lot of talk right now about them not renewing contracts. And I mean, with people coming in and leaving, I mean, where do I think we get a second hour of Rampage within the next year, especially with the Warner Media stuff going on. We need another hour there. An hour doesn't seem like it's enough. I think that we'll see some more interaction with New Japan and Impact and maybe even Ring of Honor. But I think the Ring of Honor stuff is mostly going to Impact right now because they've got 5 or 6 guys that have started a faction on the Impact side.
Yeah, and then isn't Ring of Honor isn't running
they're taking up
the way that it used to be. They're doing it by
they're not doing anything right now. They
announced their first pay-per-view.
Well, did they announce one for 2022?
Their first show is in April. It's gonna happen Friday night before WrestleMania in Dallas.
Okay.
But the way that they're doing contracts is like a day by
day
appearance. Yeah, per appearance.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of how Impact is doing stuff too, and even AEW is doing it that way. For anybody who's not all elite, they're pretty much on a per appearance or a short-term contract. That's like Matt Raywalt right now. Last I knew, he wasn't under a long-term contract. He's still working kind of per appearance through his whatever he's doing with Deonna Purrazzo over there, and now he's doing some commentating, but he's also doing commentating for New Japan Strong. So, but they're doing short-term stuff. He's even like, that's why you're seeing a lot of these wrestlers right now that are like, I'm still taking independent bookings. Here's my email. You can book me through here. You can do that, because they're not. A lot of these companies are not signing people to long-term contracts anymore at the current time, because of the pandemic stuff. Honestly, I mean, there's not enough stability, especially like Ring of Honor. Like they shut down completely. They had their last pay-per-view, and then like they canceled everybody's contracts.
Right.
Like you're done until we start back up again, and then you'll have something new. But I feel like if we get some of these things with Warner Media, if they pick up some other stuff where we can bring some of these other people in, the sky's the limit, honestly. I don't see them adding a third show. I see them maybe taking Elevation and Dark off of YouTube and putting them on HBO Max or Discovery Plus, just to get them out to more people. And then they can have, maybe like a higher quality show. I don't know what the output production is. I haven't watched a Dark in 6 months probably. So
it goes by pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, and like, I don't know. I feel like it's great that they have all these hours of stuff, but again, people aren't going to watch it on YouTube. Most people, they might watch it if it's on Discovery Plus. So
yeah, because they'll come across it in streaming. Like it'll be like the recommended for you kind of stuff. But I don't want to see it become something that's trying to keep up with WWE. Like I don't want it to be something that is trying to mimic or I don't want it to play that game. Like, I want
Yeah.
competition to be competition because competition is good for everybody.
Agreed. Yeah.
You know, and I
think
want
that's
a good show
what's
that's fun to
the
watch.
rising tides raises all ships?
Yeah, rising tides raise all ships.
I mean, I agree with all that, but I think that that's one of the reasons that they're going to use like the shorter term contracts, is they can bring people in for a little bit of time, have some feuds, and then leave the door open for something in the future, but then they're free to go elsewhere and work wherever they want. You know, it's a double-edged sword for these wrestlers, I feel like, because like there's not as much stability for them with a short-term deal or a per appearance, but it gives them more opportunity to go and wrestle with people they want to wrestle in companies that they want to go to. So it's great for them to get, you know, wider exposure, but the stability isn't necessarily there, and the pay isn't necessarily probably as good as something.
Well, and I think that they'd
long-term.
have opportunities to do other things too. That's why everybody has a vlog. That's why everybody has Twitch. That's why everybody. I mean, and it depends on, you know, the product, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're allowed
But
to
if you're-
wrestle other companies.
And then if you're allowed to wrestle in other places and do other appearances that you're not necessarily tied to AEW with.
Yeah, what's
Right.
this one where Mox is the world champion? GCW.
GCW, yeah.
Yeah, because the Briscoes are the tag team champions there, and they're also the Ring of Honor tag team champions that they won at the last pay-per-view. But they're Twitter feuding for the last 2 years with FTR, so there's thought that the Briscoes are coming to AEW.
It's possible. I don't know. They are. While I get that they were on TV with Ring of Honor, they're kind of a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people just because of their whole gimmick.
Right. So let me ask you this.
I don't know their gimmick.
You are Tony Khan, and you're looking at this pool of free agents. Name me 5 wrestlers that you would sign and why.
Oh, free agents, man. Who's even out there right now that's not somewhere? So I'd probably look.
And are you looking at big guys? Or are you looking at smaller guys?
Well, for Tony Khan right now, I'm looking at a women's division because I feel like it's extremely lacking. I really would have loved to see him bring over the Iconics when they left. They are completely underrated. They are hilarious ladies, and they have a lot of talent. They're killing it right now.
I thought they would come over because
they're killing it right now in Impact. So I mean, I think they're the Impact Women's Tag Champs right now.
Yeah, and it's so funny because
over there.
One of them is married to Sean Spears.
Yeah, which is why I was surprised that they ended up in Impact. But I'd bring over. I don't know that he's a free agent because I don't know how Impact stuff is working, but like they need to bring in some older guys too, even though it's just going to be you're bringing over WWE guys. Well, you know, like guys like Rhino still have a lot to offer. He's doing some stuff in Impact, but I feel like he would be kind of like somebody good to bring over and feud with Lance Archer. Even though Lance is big, Rhino is big, you know, like I feel like they would have good matches.
Yeah, and Archer's not, a spring chicken either, right? He's been around for a while.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so hard. Like those 3 for sure.
Scary. Like
Lance Archer, yeah, he is kind of a scary guy.
Scary.
Yeah. Oh man, trying to think who else I might bring over.
Here's a name of somebody that just left WWE, Toni Storm.
So that situation is weird. Because she wrestled a match, left, booked her own shit home, and just like, I'm not coming back. So she would be a great get for the women's division over there. She's got to wait 90 days because they did bring her up to the main roster. So that would be a great women's division get.
And it's pretty much confirmed Jeff Hardy's coming over.
Well, oh, I love the Jeff Hardy situation. I love it that he got himself fired.
Yeah.
He did.
You know what? I was disappointed, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's
back on drugs."
Yeah.
No, like
I'm really annoyed. Like if you follow him on anything,
and his wife,
and you follow his wife, then you know that he's not using. And
no, my favorite thing is if you watch the videos, like he just was like, "I'm done," and he just got off the ring and walked out and took pictures with fans and went back to the back and
walked away.
Basically left. And they're like, "Well, we want you to take a drug test." And he said no. And he said no because he knows that refusing to take one is a failure, even if you're clean. Yep. And he knew that with his history that they would probably drop him if he refused to take the test.
Yeah. And you want to know when he's free? And I think it's timed just right. He will be able to make a TV appearance on AEW at the Revolution pay-per-view.
Nice.
So I believe Orlando is where he shows up. Which just makes
me feel like I really need to go. Like,
what's the date on that?
March. Let's see. Rampage is the 4th, 5th, March 6th.
Oh man, I already have plans that weekend. Otherwise, I might make a trip.
Yeah, because what they're doing is Friday is Rampage at the same arena. Saturday is AEW Fan Fest, and then Sunday's Revolution. And then the following Wednesday, they're in Fort Myers for Dynamite and Rampage.
What can I sell that would buy us tickets?
I hear kidneys go for pretty decent on the black market. You got 2 of those.
Yeah.
I only need one. Right?
I only need one. Just one.
So final words on AEW and what they've done the last 3 years. I'll start with you, Nicole.
I wasn't a fan. Like, you made me a fan, and then
I mean, you've been watching religiously since
August. So I think it is a better product, and I enjoy the people that are there, and I hope that it continues to be, I hope it continues to be something that people want to watch and enjoy, and I hope it continues to be something that's fun.
I mean, you do show your excitement because, like, if you're tutoring Wednesday, you're like texting me, like, what's going on?
What's happening right now? Like, I can't get, like, I tutored and I had to close, so I missed. What was it? Did I miss like the first half hour or something?
Yeah.
And he's like, CM Punk is on. Get your ass up here. And I'm like, I'm trying. Like, I can only drive so fast. Like,
I got a prediction. I think Hook is going to win you over this year.
I don't know.
That when you asked me to put some stuff together, I was like, he was on my list. I'm not sure how I feel about the attitude that they're having him. But, like, he's solid in the ring already.
He is solid in the ring. I'll give you that. But I feel like him, like, I feel about him like I feel about.
I don't think he's going to stay with Team Taz. I think
Lesnar.
I think his
just
dad.
Don't feel like they have a lot of. He doesn't have a lot of personality.
Yeah, but that's.
He ruthlessly kills somebody. He steps over their body and then he leaves. And by a brush, like, what the hell? Like, don't look like you should kill somebody if you look like you're an Instagram influencer. Like, I just don't understand.
He doesn't like QT.
And that did you got points, Hook. Okay?
Yeah, I mean,
you shut QT Marshall up and you got points.
The kid's got something. What it is, we'll see, because he has no character right now other than he comes out, does his job, and walks away. I mean, he can only go up because he has nothing to start from. I mean, really, he has the technical prowess, but he has no personality.
Yeah.
I totally see.
He's like one note.
I totally see him going over Taz and becoming a face. Like when he's going to break out on his own, I think that's how they're going to do it. but time will tell.
But they're gonna have to really prove that he can be a face. Right now, he's just a killer.
Well, no,
Like,
not right now. But when the time comes, that's how I see it happen.
You better form some sort of damn personality, like with something. Like
he's got to
like
be.
At least, okay, with Wardlow, there's not a lot of personality there, but there's little glimmers of storytelling that happen in his facial expressions and the way he walks out of the ring.
And I think that's my problem with Hook right now is he doesn't have any storytelling ability. It's literally just a fight, and that's it.
Walk in, look, do the hair toss thing and slaughter somebody with a couple of whatever he does, and then step over their body and leave.
And they're trying so hard to make him be like, oh, send Hook, he's a killer. Okay, but why do I care?
So out of his
draws me in.
Who's he going to learn storytelling from? Because he's being trained by Cody and QT.
Cody.
I mean, Cody Rhodes for sure.
Because to me, QT is still only. I don't know. I don't see the same kind of spark from QT as I see from Cody. Like Cody can wear a lot more hats than QT can.
Yeah.
Like to me, QT is still pretty one note himself.
How many hats are we talking?
12.
Weirdo.
12 hats.
All right. So
I mean, that's just me.
Your final thoughts then on AEW.
They need to bring in some more bigger names, which they're working on. They started off decent for what they had, and they are only getting better and better. With the addition of people like CM Punk, I feel like we're going to see a lot more growth in the next year, especially with some of these people. Again, Jeff Hardy's probably coming, Johnny Gargano, which we talked about, maybe Ember Moon, and then who knows, we might see some people like Mickie James or any of these other folks on Impact show up over here. It really depends on how they decide to keep their business running. They kind of messed up the whole Impact stuff the first time by only bringing it in a couple of people and not really taking anybody to the other side. But I mean, I feel like if they do things right, the sky's the limit. So
yeah, because the only one that they did take over to the other side was Omega. But
yep. Yeah. I'm excited to see what the year brings, especially now that Mox is back, dropping F-bombs on TBS.
I was like, what's the rule for that?
And can we say how great it is to see wrestling on TBS again?
I love it. I mean, even when it was on TNT, I mean, Thursday nights was Thursday Night Thunder on TNT, right? Wasn't it?
Right.
I think it was. So, I mean, now that it's back on TBS, it's even better, but it was still already on Turner, which was great. Like in year 2 for me, they scared NXT out of Wednesdays.
Yes, these things.
Just saying, how much longer before SmackDown moves back to Thursday?
I guess we'll find out. Well, Nick, it was nice talking to you about wrestling, and
absolutely.
We would love to have you back on to talk about wrestling. You
sure
seem to have knowledge of wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Just let me know.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to end the show with ringing that bell like we do.